Live from New Delhi, watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. A day after a shock resignation, outgoing French PM Sébastien Lecornu makes last-ditch talks to salvage cabinet amid political turmoil. Donald Trump says chance of Gaza peace deal really good and it will be lasting as talks to continue in Egypt. India slams Pakistan at the UN Security Council over decades of cross-border terrorism, says the country bombs its own people. And Prime Minister Modi expresses gratitude to people as he enters 25th year of serving as head of a government. Beginning with updates from France, where political turmoil still continues. A day after his shock resignation, outgoing French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu is starting 2 days of last-ditch talks on Tuesday with members of various parties in an effort to find a way out of the country's political crisis. Lecornu tendered his resignation and governments on Monday morning after his government announced on Sunday evening was rejected by both allies and opponents. His government was the shortest-lived administration in modern French history. Emmanuel Macron tasked Lecornu on Monday with holding the talks, setting a deadline for Wednesday evening. And politicians of various tribes express confusion about the president's moves, with some arguing that Lecornu's new task was merely an effort to buy more time nearly a month after the outgoing Prime Minister's nomination. And after the far-right surge in European Parliament elections, Macron announced snap elections for the lower parliamentary house. The result was a fractured parliament with no clear majority in a country with a government designed to have a powerful president with a strong parliamentary majority and little history of building coalitions and consensus. And Lecornu was Macron's third prime minister since those elections were called, and Macron's options are now limited. Lecornu's ministerial lineup had been fiercely criticized across the board by parties in the National Assembly, which threatened to vote it down. The nomination of former Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire as Minister of the Armed Forces in particular seemed to be a sticking point for many political factions. For now, far-right and hard-left parties are urging Macron to call new snap parliamentary elections or quit. And France is experiencing continuous and unprecedented political instability for more than 12 months, marked by a hung parliament, brief governments and widespread protest. Let's take a look at the ongoing political turmoil in the country. In January 2024, Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne resigned after struggling to pass key reforms. In May 2024, unrest breaks out in the French territory of New Caledonia over controversial voting rights reforms. In June 2024, the far-right National Rally secures 31.5% of the votes in European Parliament elections. President Macron dissolves the National Assembly and calls for snap legislative elections. Widespread protests erupt during the election campaign. And in July 2024, the legislative elections result in a hung parliament. Prime Minister Atal resigns, initiating a long period with a caretaker government. In September 2024, Michel Barnier is appointed Prime Minister, but his government is toppled in December by a no-confidence vote over budget disputes. And then in December 2024, Francois Bayrou is appointed Prime Minister, becoming the third person to hold the role within a year. Then in January 2025, Bayrou's government survives no confidence motions, but his position remains fragile. In September 2025, Bayrou's government falls, sparking a political crisis. In September 2025, Sébastien Lecornu is appointed the 7th Prime Minister of Macron's presidency, and on October 6, 2025, Lecornu resigned just hours after appointing his new cabinet. Let's now take a look at what may happen next. The deepening crisis will disrupt the 2026 budget process, raising the likelihood that emergency legislation will be needed to keep the government running. Under French law, the government has until October 7 to deliver a 2026 budget bill, although the constitution allows some flexibility until mid-month. But with so little time to appoint a new Prime Minister and cabinet, it is increasingly unlikely that Macron administration can deliver the bill on schedule. In that event, lawmakers would need to pass emergency stopgap legislation to authorize spending, taxation and borrowing from January 1st until a full budget is approved. France resorted to such emergency measures last December after then Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government was ousted, invalidating his proposed 2025 budget. All right, let's go across to DD India's Akshay Dongri. He has more information on this and he'll explain what might happen next. Akshay, can you begin by giving us the latest update on the political situation in Paris following Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's resignation?
Well, Abhishek, the first situation that we have to report to our viewers is the fact that there are three options in front of Emmanuel Macron right now. One is to elect a new prime minister. That is going to be difficult because it's 5 prime ministers who have resigned in the last 2 years since the re-election of Mr. Macron. Second option would be to tender his own resignation. Now that also is quite difficult as far as the situation is concerned. And the third is to order elections. Now the last two options President Macron has been opposed to, and that is why so many prime ministers have been changed. But it seems that soon Emmanuel Macron will also run out of options as far as the situation is concerned, and we can see the political crisis deepening because the far right especially is making a lot of gains from the situation that has erupted in France in the last 2 years.
All right, Akshay, and also how's the political atmosphere right now in France, especially within the ruling bloc and also the opposition parties?
Well, the far right is having a great time as far as the political instability is concerned, especially Ms. Le Pen, who has been, ambitious of winning the presidential elections. However, they kept on falling short of seats. But now the kind of, instability there is, this always gives the breeding ground for new political players. And that is what the right wing is quite confident about. So it seems that in the next few months, if the political crisis doesn't resolve and if the situation remains the same, then we can expect, the far right to make more and more gains. And that perhaps is also the reason why Emmanuel Macron is not ordering elections, because they know that at this point in time, the people will go for far right, given the fact that Mr. Macron and his political allies have not been able to provide any stability to the people of France.
And lastly, finally, Akshay, what's the likely course of action we can expect from Macron over the next 48 hours or so?
Well, what we are expecting is to, find another candidate for the prime minister seat. However, that is a difficult task because, so far, center and right-wing leaders from his own party and have been given a chance. But now, increasingly, it's becoming more and more evident that Mr. Macron will have to bring a prime ministerial candidate from the left. And that is going to create a lot of problems for him because, we have seen how difficult it has been for Mr. Macron to bring the pension rights the pension reforms rather to the people of France. And if a left-wing person becomes the prime minister, they have been opposed to it. They can oppose it, and they can also oppose the kind of budget that the government of France is envisioning for at least the next 2 years.
All right. Keep an eye on that, Akshay. Thank you for the time being, but yes, we'll keep taking updates from you. Moving on, amid rising tensions with Venezuela, US President Donald Trump on Monday has called off efforts to reach a diplomatic agreement with Venezuela and told his special envoy, Richard Grenell, to stop all outreach. Earlier, Trump said US forces hit another vessel allegedly carrying illegal drugs off the coast of Venezuela, adding that the US would also start looking at drug trafficking occurring on land. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly alleged that the US is hoping to drive him from power. At the same time, President Nicolas Maduro said on Monday that Venezuela foiled a false flag operation by what he called local terrorists to plant explosive at the US Embassy in Caracas and exacerbate a dispute between the two countries over drug trafficking. The statement came amid a strong US military deployment in the Caribbean focused on combating drug trafficking.
Es una operación típica de falsa bandera, pudiéramos llamar, una operación típica de provocación para después armar el escándalo y utilizar el poder comunicacional a través de redes y medios para culpar al gobierno bolivariano y comenzar una escalada de enfrentamiento donde nadie va a preguntar cómo lo hizo, quién lo hizo, donde nadie va a escuchar a nadie, sino que se van a escuchar el repiqueteo de las ametralladoras y de los misiles. Así que era una acción de provocación.
Meanwhile, hundreds marched to the UN office on Monday in Caracas demanding respect for Venezuela's sovereignty and peace. Political and social groups organized the march, which featured banners rejecting foreign interference and supporting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. In response, the US assembled several warships in a naval build-up in international waters near Venezuela, allegedly to combat drug trafficking. All right, time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Newshour. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday. US government shutdown stretches into second week as Senate rejects funding bills again. In India hosts first ever Trust and Safety India Festival. Dr. S. Shankar stresses global good should be the priority of AI governance. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Indirect talks in Egypt between Israel and Hamas have been positive so far, as per reports, with discussions set to resume around midday on Tuesday. Delegations from Israel and Hamas held their first day of indirect negotiations in Egypt on Monday on a US-drafted peace plan. As per reports, both parties have agreed on most of the first phase terms, which includes the release of hostages and establishing a ceasefire. The Israelis are led by top negotiator Ron Dermer, while Khalil Al-Haya leads the Hamas delegation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said foreign policy advisor Ofer Fock would be present for Israel, and the talks began with a meeting between Arab mediators and the Hamas delegation. Now, both Hamas and Israel have responded positively to Trump's proposal, but reaching an agreement on the details is said to be a huge task. The plan envisages the disarmament of Hamas, which the terrorist group is unlikely to accept. It also provides for the gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, but Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed to redeploy troops deep inside the territory while securing the release of hostages. And US President Donald Trump said on Monday he thought there would be a Gaza deal soon, And speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump said tremendous progress on the issue had been made.
Have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza, but I mean, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Now, families held a moment of silence at the site of Israel's Nova Music Festival on Tuesday to remember the victims of October 7, 2023 attack by Hamas. Dozens of relatives paid their respects at the site, which has since become a memorial, holding a minute's silence at 0329 GMT to mark 2 years to the day after the attack. Israelis on the streets hope for a deal to secure the release of hostages. As of 251 hostages taken, 48 of them still remain in Gaza, 20 of whom are believed to be alive. All right, DD India's Jessica Taneja joins us for more. Hi, Jessica. How are the discussions progressing? Have there been any signs of a potential breakthrough so far?
Well, none yet, but it's day 2 of those discussions and rounds of negotiations taking place in Egypt, where you have countries like Qatar, like Turkey, and again Egypt, along with the United States and Israeli officials present to hatch out a deal that would perhaps in the long run at least try to achieve some kind of ceasefire that would end the hostilities in the Gaza Strip. Now, what we've understood from the discussions so far that have taken place is that it is a two-phased plan, and a list is being prepared or reviewed which would look into the exchange of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel in exchange for the 20 Israeli hostages that are alive, about 48 of them, and the others, of course, the remains will also be given to the families. And as you see, it's been 2 years since Hamas attacked Israel that took the lives of almost 1,200 people, and in return, Israeli military operations, according to UN Special Commission, have so far claimed 65,000 Palestinians' lives, along with 2 million now nearly starving on a daily basis. So the need for sending aid hasn't been more stressed, as has been the return for Israeli hostages taken in by Hamas. So there are a lot of contentions that all the mediators present there, along with both Hamas and Israeli officials, will have to agree upon. So those details we'll still wait for. What level, on what level have the two agreed on?
All right, Jessica, also, how significant is the US participation, US role in these negotiations, especially with President Donald Trump and his team personally involved?
That's correct. The Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been, making quite a lot of trips, not just to Israel, but also to Qatar and Doha earlier, where the talks were being held, especially the negotiations for the ceasefire. But in the recent times, America, of course, at the helm of affairs in the entire process, with President Donald Trump claiming when he had assumed office earlier in January this year that he would end the war in 1 day, including that of Russia-Ukraine. But that didn't take place, because this is a time of sensitive diplomacy, whether it's Russia and Ukraine or it's Israel and Gaza, and specifically Hamas. So that those intricacies are difficult to chart out. But America under President Donald Trump has been wanting to make sure that at least there is a ceasefire deal that comes into existence that includes those 2 phases, where it would see Hamas releasing those hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, and in the second one, perhaps a contentious demand that has come from both sides, where the Israelis say that Hamas would have to disarm, as well as the political entity of Hamas at least seems to believe at this point that they need to see a timeline of withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip. And America has been able to sort of get all the parties together. Now, these mediation talks have been going on much before Donald Trump assumed presidency, but not a lot of breakthrough seen in this particular side of the war, and to ensure a ceasefire in a region which is quite literally burning even today.
Absolutely. Next few days will be very crucial. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest on that story. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the Houthi rebels in Yemen for detaining 9 more United Nations workers and seizing UN assets in areas under their control. The latest arrests bring the total number of UN staff arbitrarily detained since 2021 to 53, according to UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric. The UN warns these actions hinder the UN's ability to operate in Yemen and to deliver critical assistance. The detentions follow earlier incidents in which Houthi forces captured 11 UN employees. The UN has since moved its top envoy from Sana'a to Aden and vowed to work relentlessly for the release of all detained personnel. Spokesperson Stephen Dujarric said that the United Nations would continue to work tirelessly through all available channels to secure the safe and immediate release of all arbitrarily detained personnel, as well as the return of UN agency officers and other assets. All right, shifting focus now. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde on Monday cautioned that any European Union decision to use frozen Russian state assets for Ukraine must strictly adhere to international law. The EU is exploring ways to channel over 210 billion euros in immobilized Russian funds toward Ukraine's defense and reconstruction, but outright seizure remains illegal. Instead, Brussels is considering investing the assets in zero-coupon bonds guaranteed by EU government to create a reparations loan for Kiev. Lagarde warned European lawmakers in Strasbourg that bypassing legal norms could undermine confidence in the euro and shake financial stability. With the frozen funds now stuck at Belgium's Euroclear after maturing, Lagarde insisted that any action must be collectively agreed and fully compliant with global legal standards. Now, the US Senate has once again failed to pass a spending budget, making it the 5th such time that would continue to keep the government in a state of shutdown. Both Democratic and Republican funding proposals failed to pass in the Senate on Monday, unable to reach a 60-vote threshold needed for approval. A Republican bill gathered 52 affirmative votes and 42 nays. Previously, the Democratic-led bill had 45 affirmative votes and 50 negative. 3/5 of the Senate were needed to approve the motions put forth. And US President Donald Trump said he would be open to making a deal on subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Trump said he was happy to work with Democrats on healthcare policy, but the shutdown must end first.
We have a negotiation going on right now with the Democrats that could lead to very good things. And I'm talking about good things with regard to health care. Well, I don't want to say that. But we are speaking with the Democrats, and some very good things could happen with respect to health care. I'd like to see a deal made for great health care. Yeah, I want to see great health. I'm a Republican, but I want to see health care much more so than the Democrats.
Trump had warned earlier that another stalemate could result in significant job losses. The White House on Monday backed off Trump's assertion that US government employees were being laid off right now due to shutdown, but warned that job losses could result if Congress does not restore federal funding. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday. The talks between the leaders will focus on shared priorities for a new economic and security relationship. Canada has not yet reached a broad trade deal with the Trump administration, unlike other major US trading partners, including the European Union. So far, Trump has maintained tariff exemptions on all goods compliant with an existing pact, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, agreed during Trump's first term. And USMCA, known as the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, revision talks are scheduled for next year, and Carney has said his team is focused on preserving a good deal for Canada, which also benefits the United States and Mexico. The United Nations Cultural Agency selected former Egyptian Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khalid Al-Ennani as its new chief on Monday, handing him the keys to revive UNESCO's fortunes after the US withdrew from it for the second time. Al-Ennani was up against Firmin Edouard Matoko of the Republic of Congo, but had been the favorite to win the secret ballot for a 4-year term, having launched his campaign early in April 2023. He had since built strong regional backing and international alliances. UNESCO's board, which represents 58 of the agency's 194 member states, elected him with 55 votes. Matoko won 2 votes. The United States did not vote. The selection will now be put forward for approval to UNESCO members on November 6. While outgoing chief Audrey Azoulay has worked to diversify funding sources, the UN Culture and Education Agency still receives about 8% of its budget from Washington. Once the US withdrawal takes effect at the end of 2026, that funding will be cut. The US has lifted sanctions imposed on former Paraguayan President Horacio Cortes on Monday. Cortes announced that US sanctions against him imposed 2 years ago over alleged corruption have been lifted. The announcement came after the former president and his companies were removed from OFAC's list of specially designated nationals. In 2023, OFAC sanctioned Cortes for alleged widespread corruption and obstructing a transnational crime investigation to shield himself. He had consistently denied the accusations. Cortes, Paraguay's president from 2013 to 18, leads the ruling Colorado Party and wields significant influence in the government. Now, Madagascar President André Rajoelina named Army General Rufin Fortunat Zafisambo as Prime Minister on Monday, a week after dissolving the government in response to ongoing protests over power and water shortages. Zafisambo replaced Prime Minister Christine Natsai, who was dismissed as part of the president's move. The general was the director of the military cabinet in Prime Minister's office until the appointment. Zafisambo's top priority would be to restore electricity and water supply. Earlier on Monday, protesters returned to the streets in the nation for a third week of anti-government demonstrations. Rajoelina fired his cabinet last week, but many demonstrators are now demanding him to resign himself. Inspired by similar Gen Z marches in Kenya and Nepal, the protests are the largest wave of unrest in recent years. Rajoelina said in a speech on Friday that he was ready to listen to the protesters' grievances but ignored calls for his resignation. All right, moving further, India has once again called out Pakistan for its delusional tirade against India, especially Jammu and Kashmir. Speaking during the open debate on women, peace and security, India's permanent representative to the UN, P. Harish, highlighted how Pakistan conducted Operation Searchlight in 1971, sanctioning genocidal mass rape by its own army. He underscored how the world sees through Pakistan's propaganda and said that Pakistan distracts the world through hyperbole.
Every year we are unfortunately fated to listen to the delusional tirade of Pakistan against my country, especially on Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian territory they covet. Our pioneering record on women, peace and security agenda is unblemished and unscathed. A country that bombs its own people, conducts systematic genocide, can only attempt to distract the world with misdirection and hyperbole. This is a country that conducted Operation Searchlight in 1971 and sanctioned a systematic campaign of genocidal mass rape of 400,000 women citizens by its own army. The world sees through Pakistan's propaganda.
And the ambassador added that India is ready to share its expertise on women, peace and security with the world for dealing with challenges.
India remains unwavering in its commitment to the women, peace and security agenda. We stand ready to share our expertise with partners, particularly those in the Global South, fostering collective solutions to shared challenges.
Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Tuesday inaugurated and addressed the Trust and Safety India Festival in New Delhi. India hosted the first ever Trust and Safety India Festival. The two-day festival marks landmark moment in the global digital safety landscape and brings together over 200 participants from more than 15 countries. Explaining the importance of the AI in today's world, Dr. Jaishankar said AI will impact every citizen in every corner of the world.
AI will transform our economies. It will change our work habits. It will create radically new health solutions. It will enhance educational access. It will improve efficiencies. It could even lead to a new lifestyle. The difference with the past is that this particular transformation that is going to come upon us This will be all-pervasive and not just sectoral. It will impact every citizen in every corner of the world.
Further highlighting the safety of AI, Minister said ongoing efforts in AI safety involve establishing governance frameworks, implementing regulations and developing best practices.
Trust and safety are essential for the implementation of responsible AI. For a society like India, this means development of indigenous tools and frameworks, self-assessment protocols for innovators, and establishing relevant guidelines. Only then can we be assured that the development, deployment, use, and governance of AI is safe and accessible.
Shifting focus, Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal clarified that the Indian government neither promotes nor bans cryptocurrency but has chosen to regulate it primarily through heavy taxation.
We have not been encouraging cryptocurrency which does not have sovereign backing or which is not backed by assets, say from the federal bank or local currency. So India has also announced that we'll be coming out with a digital currency which will be backed by Reserve Bank of India guarantee like currency. And our idea is that this will only make it easier to transact. It will also reduce the paper consumption and will be faster to transact than the banking system also. But it will also have traceability through blockchain. So only legal transactions can be done.
Speaking in Doha, Union Minister Piyush Goyal announced that India will launch a digital currency backed by the Reserve Bank of India, a secure, traceable and faster way to transact, reducing paper use and ensuring safety. This digital rupee will function like traditional currency but with advanced technology. During his visit to Qatar, Piyush Goyal also addressed the vibrant Indian community, appreciating their role as a strong pillar of India-Qatar relations. Qatar ranks among India's key trading partners within the Gulf Cooperation Council, with bilateral trade totaling over $14.15 billion in 2024-25.
Together, Qatar and India will power the development of all of humanity. And that is the strength that you bring to the table. And I am very confident that the sincerity with which you contribute to Qatar's economy, the hard work that you put in, the assimilation of Indian people with the local community is your biggest strength. Together, when all of you represent India, you are the living bridge between Qatar and India.
All right, we are slipping into a very short break. On the other side, more stories. Keep watching DD India Newshour. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi enters 25th year in public office on October 7, a journey that began in 2001 as Gujarat's Chief Minister. From crisis management to national leadership to a global statesman, his tenure has been defined by transformative reforms, welfare schemes, strategic international alliance and a governance model that scaled from state success to nationwide impact. PM Modi's journey in this report.
Minister Narendra Modi entered his 25th year in public office. The journey began when he took over as the Chief Minister of Gujarat on October 7, 2001, a milestone that underscores a long arc of political and administrative evolution from state to national and even global leadership. PM Modi's state-level career began amid challenge and upheaval. Narendra Modi became Gujarat's youngest chief minister on October 7, 2001 at the age of 51. He took charge in the wake of the devastating Bhuj earthquake and inherited a state grappling with infrastructure deficits and governance gaps. Over the next 13 years, he served 4 terms as chief minister, laying the groundwork for what came to be known as the Gujarat model of growth and development. Under his leadership, Gujarat saw expansion in water and infrastructure projects, power sector reforms, and industrial investments. Administrative innovations and social schemes such as Kanya Kelavani Yatra to promote girls' education were launched, which later found echoes on the national stage. In 2014, BJP's national leadership nominated the then Gujarat Chief Minister as its prime ministerial candidate, and following a sweeping electoral mandate, PM Modi assumed the office. Over 3 terms, Prime Minister Narendra Modi led India on a new glide path of growth and transformation with his signature governance principles to the national canvas. One of the more discussed legacies is PM Modi's long-standing advocacy for girls' education and gender equality. During his chief ministership in Gujarat, he initiated the Beti Bachao campaign to combat female feticide and promote schooling for girls, especially in districts with low female enrollment. When the central government launched Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao on January 22, 2015, it institutionalized many of those principles at scale. Over 2 decades, the public record portrays PM Modi's journey as one of continuity and scaling, from laying the foundation of a resilient Indian economy, managing drought, disaster recovery, and state reforms, to running ambitious national welfare, infrastructure, and social equity programs. His dynamic leadership at the global level also raised the diplomatic relations to strategic levels and cemented ties with key world leaders. While debates on policy impact, political style, and implementation challenges persist, entering the 25th year in active public leadership is a rare milestone in modern Indian politics. The narrative is still being written, and the trajectory from state to national leader to a global leader all underscore the continuity of PM Modi's political prowess. Antara Sinha for DD India.
And to talk more about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's journey in the last 24 years, we are joined by Professor KG Suresh, senior journalist. Welcome, Professor Suresh. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. As Prime Minister, Modi marks 24 years in governance, beginning with his tenure as Gujarat's Chief Minister in 2001. How would you describe his evolution as a leader over the years?
Well, good afternoon to all your viewers. And I was really fortunate to witness his becoming the Chief Minister also.
Yeah.
I was witness to the difficulties that he faced, including the unfortunate earthquake on Republic Day in 2001, subsequently the cyclone that Gujarat faced. Earlier we had drought also, and of course subsequently we had a lot of social instability also which happened, and he very successfully dealt with all the problems, and then from a state which was lagging in many respects is today at the forefront of governance in the country. In fact, Gujarat model has become synonymous with good governance. And today, everybody who has been to Gujarat would vouch for it, that the kind of development that has taken place there is certainly unprecedented. And it has become a role model for many states to follow. And thanks to the Gujarat model, which found its resonance across the country, the people of the country decided to give their leadership not once, not twice, but thrice to Prime Minister Modi, And we have seen how successfully, he has taken the country and is currently taking the country to FICCI Bharat, to the third largest economy in the world. And there is not a single sector where we have not made advances or advancements as a society. In terms of health cover, the Ayushman Bharat, in terms of about 80 crore people being given, food, subsidized food, in terms of about 25 crore people being taken out of the vortex of poverty. I mean, you name it. There is not a single sector where work has not happened, whether it is irrigation, whether it is agriculture, whether it is providing a better life to our farmers, even, the people, the urban workers, in terms of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and globally also, in terms of global leadership. Our global leadership is now recognized, and we are reckoned as one of the leading powers of the world, not just militarily, but in terms of, South-South cooperation, in terms of our concern for humanity, whether it is climate change, whether it is trade negotiation, the world looks up to us. And we have done all that at, without compromising on our self-respect, even in the face of, provocations, including tariffs. We have never succumbed to pressure.
Yeah.
We have always, maintained our sovereignty. We have maintained our relations with countries to ensure that Indian national interests are always protected. So I think that this is a leadership which has set an example worldwide.
Exactly.
How sensitive leadership can, really change the fortunes of a state and a nation. And I think Prime Minister Modi is an epitome of that.
Absolutely. You have summed it up, his journey nicely from 2001 till date 2025, from eradicating poverty to touring the vision of FICCI Bharat 2047. But as PM Modi enters his 25th year of public service leadership, Professor Suresh, what do you think will define his legacy for future generations?
I think that people are going to certainly look at it as a leadership which gave India a very strong leadership in terms of both domestic policies and in terms of foreign policy, which gave the people, the Indian passport holder, a lot of respect globally. I think that in terms of inclusiveness, bringing all sections of the society with the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, I think that there is not one segment of community of population which has been discriminated against when it comes to, giving benefits. In terms of digitization, people are going to remember him for a long, long time. We could not have imagined something like direct benefit transfer, Jan Dhan Yojana, where the unbanked has been banked and people are now receiving. I remember the time when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister and he had confessed that out of the 100 rupees which are sent, only 1 rupee reaches the grassroots level. From there to, direct benefit transfer, then the, how digital payments have ensured so much of transparency, probity. The fact remains that in the last 12 years, 11 to 12 years of his leadership, there has not been a single allegation against him personally or against the government the way we used to have allegation after successive governments. Secondly, in terms of our own indigenization, Swadeshi, the focus on India moving from a service-oriented economy to a manufacturing base where now even we are not only producing our own high-end weapons like light combat aircraft and, Zorawar tanks and BrahMos missiles, but also silicon chips. We are now, from a service-oriented economy where we used to export our raw materials. Today we have become a country which is today harnessing high-end, high technology, which is exporting to the world. So this has been a major shift. So there is no arena of socio-economic life in this country which has been, and of course the major legacies like, whether it is the abrogation of Article 370, where the people of Kashmir were deprived in a way, whether it is their women or whether it is the Dalit population there, they were deprived of equality, which has been enshrined in the Constitution of India, where today it has been fully integrated with the rest of the country.
Yes.
They have so many important, whether it is the triple talaq, where you have, provided justice to women, whether it is the reservation for women in parliament and legislative assemblies, you name it. There have been historic decisions which have been taken during this period, which would be remembered for a long time to come.
Absolutely. His journey has been truly inspirational, and you mentioned about the remarkable steps that he has taken in the last 24 years. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your insights, Professor Suresh.
Thank you.
Moving on, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, will visit India on 8th to 9th October at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This will be Starmer's first official visit to India. During the visit on October 9th in Mumbai, the two Prime Ministers will take stock of progress in diverse aspects of India-UK comprehensive strategic partnership in line with Vision 2035. It is a focused and time-bound 10-year roadmap of programs and initiatives in key pillars of trade and investment, people-to-people relations and more. Both leaders will engage with businesses and industry leaders on opportunities presented by India-UK Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. They will also exchange views on issues of regional and global importance. The visit will build on the momentum and substance generated by a visit of Prime Minister Modi to the UK on 23rd to 24th July this year. It will provide a valuable opportunity to reaffirm the shared vision of India and the United Kingdom to build a forward-looking partnership. Moving on, the 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest is all set to begin in Mumbai on Tuesday. Based on the theme Empowering Finance for a Better World Powered by AI, the three-day event will bring together global leaders, policymakers, central bankers and innovators to explore the future of financial technology amidst the growing AI influence. Prime Minister Modi and UK Minister Keir Starmer will deliver the keynote address and engage with industry experts, policymakers and innovators on Thursday. The fest will also host a large-scale Fintech Expo with over 400 exhibitors alongside hackathons, investment pitches, Fintech awards and networking sessions. While India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman participated in the event on the sidelines of Global Fintech Fest, Sitharaman interacted with President and CEO of PayPal, Alex Chriss. The event expects more than 100,000 visitors and participation from over 7,500 companies. At the opening session of the Silver Jubilee edition of FICCI Frames, Secretary of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Sanjay Jaju reflected on the event's legacy and its role in shaping India's media and entertainment sector. He said that FICCI Frames had been a significant learning platform for him personally and that the concept of waves had found its beginnings at the forum. He referred to Prime Minister Modi's vision of India's orange economy, which the PM has described as not limited to entertainment but rooted in ideas, imagination and the transformation of cultural trends into creative energy that inspires the world. Marking 25 years of FICCI Frames, Sanjay Jaju observed that the period represented both evolution and limitless possibilities.
Our Honorable Prime Minister, during Waves, made a very important observation. Call it observation, call it a call to action, but what he actually said is very profound. He said that India's orange economy is not merely about entertainment, it is about ideas and imagination, about turning our cultural strengths into creative energy that inspires the world. So he actually considers media and entertainment to be pivotal to not just connecting the creators that all of us are sitting in this room are, but at the same time it also is a way to connect the countries, and in a sense, it's about spreading the soft power of each one of us across the world. And I'm pretty happy here that today we are celebrating the 25th year. This is the power of India's creative economy, and these 25 years of evolution and the limitless possibilities.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended the conference on opportunities in defence manufacturing in India. The minister also interacted with innovations for defence excellence startups at the Raksha Navachar Samvad. This initiative helped align state UT industrial strategies with the national mission of self-reliant defence manufacturing. Speaking at the event, Defence Minister said that today's warfare has become completely technology-oriented and Operation Sindoor very well demonstrated it. Minister also urged the need to not only master the existing state-of-the-art technologies such as AI, but also consider the futuristic technologies.
आज का युद्ध पूरी तरह से टेक्नोलॉजी ओरिएंटेड हो गया है, सभी जानते हैं। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में भी इसका डेमो हम सब ने देखा है, और इसमें हमने देखा है कि ड्रोन, एंटी ड्रोन वारफेयर एवं एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम जैसे नॉन कॉन्टैक्ट वारफेयर का महत्व आजकल बहुत बढ़ गया है। इसलिए हमें न सिर्फ एग्जिस्टिंग स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, क्वांटम टेक्नोलॉजी इन डिफेंस आदि में महारत हासिल करनी है, बल्कि हमें ऐसी फ्यूचरिस्टिक टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में भी सोचना होगा जिसके बारे में दुनिया में अभी सोचा भी न गया हो।
Rajnath Singh also highlighted that defence production worth more than rupees 1.5 lakh crore has been achieved in a short time.
इस मामले में भी है कि हमने 60 टर्म में एक टारगेट तय किया और आप लोगों ने उसके लिए जी तोड़ मेहनत की और फाइनली हमने उस टारगेट को अचीव किया। अगर हम मोर देन 1.5 लाख करोड़ का डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन और 24,000 करोड़ का अप्रॉक्सिमेटली डिफेंस एक्सपोर्ट कर पाए हैं, तो इसमें आप लोगों का बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट रोल रहा है।
Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Donald Trump imposes new 25% large truck tariff starting November 1st. And Linthoy Chanabam clinches first ever medal for India at the Judo Junior World Championships in Peru. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. US President Donald Trump announced on Monday that all medium and heavy-duty trucks imported into the United States will face a 25% tariff rate starting November 1st. Trump, in a social media post, said that all medium and heavy-duty trucks coming into the United States will be tariffed at the rate of 25% from 1st November. This is a month-long delay from October 1st start date, he vowed in an earlier social media post unveiling the new duty. Trump last month had said heavy truck imports would face new duties on October 1st on national security grounds, saying the new tariffs were to protect manufacturers from unfair outside competition. Larger vehicles include everything from delivery trucks, garbage trucks, public utility trucks, transit, shuttle and school buses and tractor-trailer trucks, as well as semi-trucks and heavy-duty vocational vehicles. Under trade deals reached with Japan and the European Union earlier, the United States has agreed to 15% tariffs on light-duty vehicles, but it is not clear if they'll face that rate for larger vehicles. And the European Commission is expected to double tariffs on steel imports to 50% on Tuesday, according to media reports. And joining us with more is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Hi Chiponda, tell us what is EU planning?
Thanks for having me. Well, the EU is planning to double its tariffs on steel imports to 50% from 25%. And it also plans to reduce steel import quotas. So that is the amount of steel that is allowed into the bloc, and that will be reduced by around 50%. Now, that's according to a couple of media reports that cite a draft proposal by the European Commission. Now, this move will help the European Union counter any dumping as a result of excess supply due to steel being redirected from the US market because of the Trump administration's 50% tariffs on steel imports there. Now, here in the EU, the European Steel Association, Eurofer, has been pushing for measures to protect the bloc's steel industry against foreign competition. Now, the current safeguards are set to expire in the middle of 2026, so the EU does need to come up with new rules if it wants to continue protecting the bloc steel industry.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs, Chiponda. Sports updates now. We'll start with judo. Linthoi Chanabam scripted history as she clinched India's first ever medal at the Judo Junior World Championships in Peru on Tuesday. 19-year-old Indian clinched the bronze medal in women's 63 kg event with the win over Netherlands' Johnny Gillen in Lima City. The judoka from Manipur made her way into the medal match by repechage route. This is the second age group world championship medal for Chanabam, who also holds the distinction of being the first Indian judoka to be crowned the cadet world champion in 2022. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.